Hello, I'm Will, and this is Mike, and we're the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And welcome to the next instalment of the Mystery of Artana 3 Crusade narrative campaign. When we last saw the story, the Necrons had suffered some punishing defeats against the Space Marines, and as such, Overlord Necho has tasked his underling, Lord Amanras, with awakening more reinforcements from the Tomb World. Lord Amanras, you can see at the back there, happily going about his task when a large earthquake shook the cavern and dropped a ruined building on top of him, along with various other bits of rubble that fell through. Most perturbed, he summoned his warriors, including the Scorpec Lord Apophis the Butcher over there, who has been exiled to the caverns for his failure earlier, as the cavern wall comes crashing down to reveal the source of the disturbance. But Lord Amanras is surprised to discover that he's been interrupted not by Space Marines of the Silver Templars, but by a force of the Death Guard. The Space Marines came to this planet originally tracking the Death Guard and their leader Lord Felthius, but they haven't actually found any trace of them so far, but here suddenly a force has appeared in the Necron caverns. So that's the setup for the game. We'll have a little look at the Necron Force first. Now there are two new units. Obviously Lord Amanras himself, but also he's surrounded by his bodyguard of Necron Immortals. First of the 10,000, and they are 10 Immortals armed with Gauss blasters. So I've added both of these units to my Crusade roster, and we'll have a look at the rosters at the end so we can see the Death Guard force as well. And they are defending the ritual site in the centre of the battlefield, which I'll describe when we talk about the mission in a moment. Lord Amanras is a Necron Lord with a War Scythe and Resurrection Orb, and he has the Relic Resurrection Orb, the Orb of Eternity. Because if you have a Resurrection Orb, you might as well have the Relic one, because it's better. A Resurrection Orb allows you to, once per game, in your command phase, enact the Resurrection protocols for a unit near the character, and every destroyed model begins to reanimate, so it's as though they'd just been shot and lost all those models just right then. And the Relic one gives them +1 to all those rolls. Usually that'll be 4 pluses. To their north, there is Lord Apophis the Butcher himself. He's a Scorpec Lord. Just as a reminder, he has the relic, the narrow scarab casket, which means that when he heals a wound from living metal, he actually heals 2 wounds instead. And there is a scarab swarm up there near an objective, which again we'll talk about. And down here on the south end of the board is another scarab swarm next to another objective. And in Strategic Reserve, I spent 2 of my command points to put Warrior Phalanx Bet, which is the ones with the Gauss Reapers, and the Avengers, which is my 3 Scorpec Destroyers. They have a battle scar that means they always have to charge the closest unit, but they get to reroll all wounds in melee. And they also have a battle trait, which gives them +1 to their movement and +1 to advance and charge rolls. So both of these units will be appearing later in the battle. There's an aerial shot of the Necron deployment on their side of the board, which is modelled a bit like a Necron Tomb World, but with all this rubble that's cascaded in from the fissures in the ground above. And then we have the Death Guard force over here, and their side of the board is set up more like their sort of mining operation, where they've been drilling through the ground, although we don't know what for at this point.
We are from the Ferrymen Plague Company, which is the 6th. So starting with the units closest to the camera, we have Squad Repugnus, led by the ever-present Champion Repugnus, with his 2 friends Bubox and Gruul. So that's a 5-man Plague Marine squad. The Champion has a Power Fist and a Plasma Gun and a Demonic Plague Blade, and there's also a Blight Launcher and a Plasma Gun in there. Next to them we have Pandemic the Fly Master, who is a Malignant Plague Caster who knows Miasma of Pestilence and Putrescent Vitality. Next along we have Squad Felgustus, led by Champion Felgustus, who have a Blight Launcher and a Icon of Despair, and the Champion himself has a Power Fist and a Plasma Gun and a Demonic Plague Blade. And we have a Mephitic Blight Hauler, and a unit of Poxwalkers, and right at the top is a pair of Chaos Spawn, who we're going to say are the Governess and PDF commander from way back on Corvon 2, Ludmilla, and I can't remember their commander's name, I have to look it up. And they have the Grandfatherly Influence stratagem played on them, so they gain +1 toughness and disgustingly resilience. I do think Felthius took a shine to them, I think, kept them as pets. And awaiting in the teleport time is Lord Felthius himself. He is a Lord of Contagion. He has the Relic Man Reaper, the Ferryman Scythe from the Ferryman Plague Company, so it has 3 hit rolls per attack in the Scythe mode instead of 2. I haven't given anyone the Warlord trait, and I don't have any Fetid Virion units, so the stratagem won't come into effect, but he also has the Orb of Desiccation as well. It's effectively a grenade 3d3 blight grenade that does 2 damage. He also has the Warlord trait Revoltingly Resilient, so he effectively gains the old Feel No Pain rule as well. We also agreed between us that he should start with 6 experience points to represent his experience on the Corvon 2 campaign, which I used to give him a Chaos Boon, and he rolled Gift of Speed, so he's -1 to hit from any attacks. And also, he's my Plague Carrier for this game. He's the only one I have so far, because he's my Warlord. And our Plague is the Bleeding Ravaging Cysts, So that means that whenever Felthius hits a unit in melee, it will immediately become contaminated and take D3 mortal wounds. While it's contaminated, it takes another mortal wound at the end of my command phase, and to get rid of it, you have to perform an action in the movement phase. You effectively have to give up your movement to get rid of it. You roll a D6 on a 2+ assists go away.
And here's a look at the Death Guard deployment overall. Obviously, Lord Felthius is in the Teleportarium, as you said. And yes, the Death Guard do have a new codex, which we've got hold of, but only just getting the chance to play with. So there were probably some things in there that, if you're familiar with the old codex, won't have made a great deal of sense. But the whole army has had a complete overhaul, and there's so many changes, we're not going to try and list them now. We'll describe them as they come up in the game, because there's just so much. The plague that Mike was just talking about is a Crusade-specific thing that the Death Guard get, and it can mutate and change over the course of a Crusade game. And his agendas allow him to gain a special resource called Virulence Points, which allows him to change aspects of his plague and do other bits and pieces. So that's their kind of Crusade mechanic, which is kind of neat.
Speaking of agendas, mine are Reaper and Let Their Hope Turn to Rot, which is a Death Guard one, and so I have to choose the unit in the Necron army with the highest power value, which is going to be the Immortals, I believe, and if one of my units destroys them, that unit will gain 3 experience points and I'll gain a Virulence point.
And for my agendas, I also picked Reaper because it's just the best of the kill things agendas available, and it's the easiest to achieve. It guaranteed to grant experience. Unless you kill nothing at all, there's no chance of failing it, at least. And the other one is Survivor, and I'm going to nominate Lord Amanras for that because, as you'll see in a moment when I describe the mission, the Death Guard are trying to take him out anyway, so if he survives the battle, he'll gain an extra 3 experience points. Well, I'm trying to keep him alive anyway because he's vital to this mission. Yes, the mission we're doing is the Incursion-level Crusade mission from the main rulebook, the Ritual. There is a ritual site here in the centre of the Necron deployment zone, which is their half of the board, effectively. In the middle of that crater in the centre of this ruin is the centre of the ritual site, and it extends 3 inches out in all directions. That is what the defender is trying to achieve. From a narrative point of view, the Necron Lord is trying to awaken more Necrons, as we said before, and the way he does that is he stands within the ritual site and performs an action at the end of his movement phase, and it's completed if he's still wholly within the ritual site at the end of his turn, and every time the defender does that, they gain 10 victory points. Whereas the attacker, i.e. the Death Guard, gains 30 victory points if the Warlord is destroyed, and it has to be the Necron Warlord who does the action, so that's why the Lord is standing there protected by his minions. But there are also objectives. I showed a couple of them before. We've got one up here by the Scarabs up there, and one down here by more Scarabs. And there's one up on this gantry up here near the Death Guard deployment zone, one in the Death Guard deployment zone next to the Poxwalkers over there. We had to place those, and we alternated placing them. And what they mean is that at the end of your command phase, if you control 2 objective markers, you gain 10 victory points, and if you control more than your opponent does, you also gain 10 victory points. So it's 20 victory points per turn available. That's the only other way of gaining victory points, so obviously whoever has the most at the end of the game is the winner. The deployment zones, as I said, the Necrons have their whole of this side of the board as a defender, and the Death Guard start 12 inches away from the centre of the board. And finally we have a look at the battlefield overall, so here's a sort of aerial view of it. On the right is the Death Guard's mining operation, and they've managed to break through into part of the Necron tomb complex. So going over the terrain, obviously we've got 3 large rock formations. These actually aren't going to have any rules at all beyond, really they're just line of sight blocking. They don't grant any other benefits or restrictions. We've got a ruin where the Necron ritual site is. Now, the mission specifies that you're not supposed to have any terrain within 3 inches of the ritual site, but we wanted to have a terrain-filled board, and it just seemed like a good idea to have something in the middle where they can defend. And this does count as a ruin, so it will grant cover and benefits, although it's not tall enough to provide obscuring, so you can't hide anything behind it. There are various bits of fallen debris all over the Necron half of the board, which are going to count as battlefield debris, which they're obstacles, but the only trait they have is exposed position, which means you don't get any benefits from standing on top of them. On the Death Guard end of the board, we obviously have this big gantry, which is an industrial structure which has dense cover, so -1 to hit from shooting through it or passing through the footprint, and a couple of other rules, like defensible. There are various pipes and barricades on the board. There's one in the very centre, a couple of pipes over there. Likewise, the cranes and so forth are also industrial. There's an armoured container, which has its own category in the rulebook. And then finally we've got the hemotrope reactors, which we're going to count as being obscuring, and they're unstable positions, you can't stand on top of them. Probably not going to be too relevant because they're both at the back of the board. I'm going to get my excuses in early. I've redeployed some of my units with Michael's permission because when deploying I was under the impression that the objectives were scored in the first battle round, but then when I was reading it just a moment ago I realised they're not, and so I wouldn't have deployed the Scarab Swarm unit over there by that objective because they didn't need to be by it in the first battle round, so Michael's very kindly let me deploy it behind the ruins over here where they can't be seen. And likewise the Scorpion Destroyer I've moved to the other side of the ruins because I put it on the other side so that the Scarabs would have been in command protocol range, but that's not relevant now that they've moved. And I gave Michael the chance to redeploy some of his models if he wanted to, and we would prefer to have the plasma gunner in this unit at the front of the unit rather than the back, if that makes sense. So swap them over, but otherwise no changes. And Death Guard will be starting the battle with 6 command points, and the Necrons with 5. I got an extra one because I have 3 Crusade points in my army and Michael has 4, so I get the half of the difference rounded up in command points, but I spent 2 to put 2 units in Strategic Reserve. Well, more than 9 power worth of units in Strategic Reserve, technically speaking. And all that's left to do is roll off to see who decides who has the first turn, so I shall roll the white dice. I got a 2.
I got a 4. So I'm going to choose to go first.
So with that, we will be on to Death Guard at turn 1. And I get to reveal my command protocol for this first battle round, which is going to be the protocol of the Sudden Storm. I have 2 options. I can either shoot while performing an action and not interrupt the action, which I'm obviously not going to pick. I will pick the other one, which is +1 movement for everything in command range. In the Death Guard command phase, they gain a command point, going up to 7.
So, starting off with my movement nearest the camera, we have Squad Repugnus, who are moving under the gantry, so they actually control the objective on top. Probably should have put it underneath, because I actually put it there. Pandemic the Flymaster, the Malignant Plaguecaster, has moved up, so he's within range of the Immortals for Smite. Squad Felgustus, 3 of them are moved up on top of the cargo container, and the other 2 have just moved out to the side. Blighthall's moved up behind them. Foxhawk is advanced and rolled a 4, so they moved 8 inches, sort of heading out to the middle of the bat. And then the 2 Spawn have moved up. They advanced as well, they only got 2, so they moved there 9 inches. Start going after this objective. That's it for movement, and on to the Psychic phase. So starting off the Psychic phase, Pandemic's going to try and cast Miasma Pestilence on Squad Felgustus, because they're the ones standing in the open, needing a 6, getting an 8.
Yep, I have no way of denying that.
Yep, it's -1 to hit on this Plague Marine squad. And then he's just going to try and cast Smite, needing a 5, getting an 8 as well. So that's a success, so we'll hit the Immortals. D3 mortal wounds for 2.
So Immortals 1 wound each, so that's 2 dead. We'll take this one. And this one. They do not get to reanimate from this because the reanimation protocol specifies after an enemy unit has finished resolving its attacks, and that is not an attack, so they don't get to use reanimation protocols.
So I'm going to pick Squad Felgustus to shoot, and they're going to shoot at the Immortals. I'm going to spend 1 command point for Virulent Rounds, which makes all their bolt weapons plague weapons, and then another 2 command points for Sickly Corrosion, so if I get a hit with a plague weapon, I get to re-roll wound rolls of 1 against the Immortals for the rest of all my shooting. So I'm down to 4 command points already, but I've got 3 bolt guns, 6 shots, because we don't count as moving, because I've got an actionable advance, hitting on 3s. That's 4 hits. And then we're wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s.
Yeah, because Immortals are toughness 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 wounds.
Great. Well, they don't have any EP though, and now in cover with a 3+ save by default, so these are actually 2+ armour saves. Oh, there's a 1 there, so 1 more goes down.
So that plasma gun, 2 shots hitting on 3s, I'm not going to overcharge it, it's not going to make any difference if I do. It's 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, rolling 1s because of Sickly Corrosion. Good job, we can reroll 1s into a wound. 18-3.
Yep, so 5+ when taking the cover into account. Nope, so that's 1 more dead.
And the Blight Launcher, 2 shots hitting on 3s, getting a hit. Wounding on a 3, rolling 1s because it's a plague weapon. That's a wound. 18-2.
4+. We've made that. So we lose 2 Immortals. We lose 2 before reanimation. I'll take this one off the top because he looks cool, but he's actually not really that important. And we'll take this one in the middle. And then reanimation, needing 5s. No, didn't get any.
And then Squad Repugnus is going to shoot at the Immortals as well. Only 2 bolt guns in this unit, so 4 shots hitting on 3s, getting 3. Wounding on 5s, rolling 1s because of Sickly Corrosion. Getting a single wound.
2+ save. Made that.
And then 2 plasma guns, 1 from the champion and 1 from the other guy, not overcharging again. 4 shots hitting on 3s. They all hit. Wounding on 3s, rolling 1s. They all wound.
So we've got 5+ saves. Oh, I haven't made any, so that's 4 more dying.
The Blight Launcher, 2 shots hitting on 3s. I'm going to reroll this 1 because if I can get 2 wounds and 2 deaths with this Blight Launcher, I can prevent the squad from reanimating. So I'm going to reroll that. Needing a 3, it hits. Wounding on 3s, rolling 1s. Oh, that's a 2. That was a 4+ save.
Oh, it's a 3.
Yeah.
So it's 5 dead, but I'll do my reanimations now. On 5s, we're getting 1. So 5 die and 1 comes back. So only 2 Immortals left. I kept the ones at the front because with only 2 left, they can't provide lookouts there anymore.
The Blighthall is the only shooting I've left, and it's going to shoot all of its guns at the 2 remaining Immortals. I could shoot at the Destroyer Lord, because he's not in range for Lookout Sir, but I want to get rid of the Immortals so that the Lord's Resurrection Orb doesn't bring most of them back. Also, these Scarabs are providing Lookout Sir to the Lord, so I couldn't shoot at him even though he'd be the most logical target. Missile launcher first. Single shot hitting on a 3, because Blighthall is a top Blizzard 3 now. Get that in the box. Where it hit. Wounds on a 3, roll 1s. Get wounded.
4+ save because it's -2, but I'm in cover. Made that, so.
And 2 multi-motor shots hitting on 3s. Missing.
On to the morale phase where the Immortals lost 8, they are leadership 10. But I will spend 2 command points to automatically pass with Insane Bravery. There's a 2 in 9 chance that they will both run away, but I'm not going to take that risk because I can now use my Resurrection Orb in my turn. Hopefully reanimate someone. That'll be the end of Death Guard turn 1, on to Necrons turn 1. In my command phase, I gain a command point, and then we will indeed use the Resurrection Orb, which is the Relic one, the Orb of Eternity. I can use it on a unit within 6 inches, and they react to their reanimation protocols for every model that is destroyed or missing. So that'll be 8 of them, so I'm basically going to roll 8 dice, as though they'd all just been killed just now. And because it's the Relic Resurrection Orb, I get +1 to this roll, so they'll be coming back on 4s rather than 5s. So, rolling. Oh, that's not bad. That's actually 6 in total, which is a really good roll, really good result. So 6 Immortals are going to stand back up. And we will bring those Immortals back out of cover, because I think we're going to have to move up and be a little bit aggressive to try and keep the Death Guard back, because there are an awful lot of them coming in. And then also in the command phase, we get to enact the Lord's Will, so we pick a unit within 9 inches of the Lord, a core unit, and they can reroll once a hit, so obviously I'll pick the Immortals to do that. So we've done quite a lot of movement, and the protocol of the Sudden Storm, although initially I thought it was a bit pointless, is actually quite useful here. So the Immortals have actually moved up quite a bit to get up to the barricade. The point of doing this is so that I can force Lord Felthius a long way back when he teleports in. The Lord has moved to the front of the ritual site, and then at the end of the movement phase he begins his action to complete the ritual, which lasts until the end of the turn. The Scarab Swarm that was behind the ruins has moved over here, and they've spread out a lot, which is to try and deny the board to Lord Felthius, so he can't teleport in behind my lines. They are incoherent, so they're basically at the limit of 2 inches apart, but they're also in range of that objective over there. The Scorpet Lord has moved up to here. He has about an 8-inch charge to get to these Plague Marines if necessary. And the final Scarab Swarm has moved, so they're holding that objective, but again, they are blocking Lord Felthius' teleportation areas. I start my shooting phase with the Immortals. They'll shoot at Squad Repugnus over here, and I'll spend a command point for Solar Pulse, which means I can, when shooting at this unit for the shooting phase, I can ignore the effects of cover, or they don't benefit from the effects of cover, which includes the -1 to hit provided by dense cover. I'll spend another command point for Relentless Onslaught, which means that when shooting with a rapid fire weapon with a core infantry unit and unmodified 6 to hit, scores an additional hit. So I've got 16 shots hitting on 3s because I'm ignoring the dense cover, and rerolling 1s thanks to the Lord's Will, which isn't an aura ability, so it still functions even though he is doing an action, because when you're doing an action your aura abilities get switched off. Well, we've only got 1 6, but that does generate an additional hit. We've got 3 1s to reroll into another 6 and another normal hit. Yeah, so that means 16 hits in total after all the additional hits. Right, strength 5 and toughness 5, so 4s to wound. 8 wounds in total at -2 AP.
So 5+ saves.
Ooh, not too.
Made 3.
So that's 5 wounds. A big change for the Death Guard is Plague Marines have 2 wounds now.
Yep, so 2 guys will die.
And 1 takes a wound. But the Disgustingly Resilient now reduces all damage taken by 1, rather than giving you a 5+ to ignore damage, so no more rolling dice. So taking away the 2 bolt rollers.
Put a wound on the light launcher.
And the Scorpec Lord is going to shoot his Enmitic Annihilator at them as well. I'm just about to see them through there. He has 2d3 shots for 3, which hit on 2s, because again, we're still ignoring cover thanks to Solar Pulse, and rerolling 1s because he's a destroyer, so I can reroll a 1 into a hit. Strength 6, so winning on 3s. 2 wounds, and he can reroll 1s because his own aura affects himself, so still failed. So 2 wounds at 80 minus 1 overall.
4+ saves. 2, so the blind launcher will die and then the wound will go on the plasma gun.
That's the end of my shooting. Onto the charge phase where the Scorpet Lord will declare a charge on those 2 remaining Plague Marines.
So I'm going to set to defend. Not going to bother with Overwatch.
Yeah, because it is defensible cover. He's within 9 inches of the champion, so it's an 8-inch charge. Getting a 7. Yeah, I will spend a command point to reroll that. Try and get an 8. Getting an 8, that's exactly what I need. I'll film it from the other side because it's the best angle I can get, but you can see he fits in there amongst all the machinery. It is breachable cover, so he can go through the gantries and things as an infantry model. We're going to use his Hyperphase Harvester. It's 3 damage, but reduced to 2, but thanks to disgustingly resilient. So we've got 4 attacks, hitting on 3s because it's -1 to hit, but rerolling 1s because he's a destroyer. That's what we want to see. 4 hits. It's strength 8 and toughness 5, so 3s to wound, but again rerolling 1s. Oh, alright, 4 wounds, we're all the same thing again. AP -4, so no save, 2 damage each.
Yeah.
And I will consolidate into the Plaguecaster. It does mean he gets to hit me and potentially can use stratagems to do mortal wounds to me, but it will shut down, assuming the Scorpion Lord is still there next turn. He can't. In this edition, you can no longer fall back and use psychic powers. So
Plaguecaster's going to pile in under the gantry, so he gets some cover, and then he gets his attacks. He has 4 attacks hitting on 3s. I'm going to spend a command point to reroll one of those. Into a miss. Good job, Plaguecaster. Wounding on 3s, rolling 1s because it's now a plague weapon. Rolling that 1. Ugh, 1 wound.
okay, and it's AP -1, I believe.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. It's gone to strength 7 now, but this is a 4+ save. 3. Yeah, I'll accept that. I will save my command point.
D3 mortal wounds. 1.
Down to 5 wounds from me.
Yeah.
That's the end of my turn, so on to battle round 2. On to Death Guard turn 2, and we're on to my next command protocol, which is Protocol of the Vengeful Stars. Either wound rolls a 6 with shooting have an additional AP, or I can ignore the effects of cover with my shooting, and I will go for the extra AP.
So in my command phase, I'm going to gain a command point, but then immediately spend it to use the Diseased Effluent stratagem on the Plaguecaster. So he takes a mortal wound, and then on a 2+, the Scorpion Lord will take D3 mortal wounds.
Normally it would be 2d3 mortal wounds, but it's only 1d3 against characters.
Plaguecaster's down to 3, and then on a 2+, yep, D3 mortal wounds to the Scorpion Lord for 3.
Oh, okay, he's down to 2 wounds remaining. So at the end of the Space Marine command phase, they don't score any points because the condition is you have to control 2 or more objectives to get 10 points. But I actually forgot that at the end of my turn, my action was completed from the Warlord, so I actually have 10 victory points for finishing 1 ritual.
So for my movement, start off with the spawn. They're going to move up around this pipe, getting in range of that objective, but Immortals are nearby. Poxwalkers are going to move up, and the 2 in front are actually just within 3 inches of the Immortals, so their contagion is in effect, so they're -1 toughness.
Yeah, that's a new Death Guard rule, and the aura gets bigger every turn.
Plague Marines are going to move up behind them, and the Blight Hall has just moved around a bit. And the Plaguecaster is going to bravely stay in melee with the Destroyer Lord. Finally, at the end of the movement phase, Lord Felthius is going to make an appearance and teleport in 9 inches away from the Immortals. So we're going to start off by trying to cast Smite, needing a 5. Getting a 5.
That's all you need.
D3 damage, 3.
That's enough to kill him. So he does die, but I'm going to leave him in place because I will probably use Resurrection Protocols on him in a minute, and it matters where his position is. But that doesn't happen to the end of the phase, so the Plaguecaster can use his other psychic power if he wants first.
And then we'll try and cast Miasma of Pestilence on the Plague Marines. Needing a 6, getting a 12.
So, power rolls.
I will reroll that to not die yet.
Okay, so 1 command point. Oh, I'll get the other out of the box.
Well, it doesn't go off, but whatever.
Doesn't take any wounds at least. Yeah, and I will try and use my last command point to bring the Destroyer Lord back, so you need to roll a 4+. If you're on a 4+, he comes back with D3 wounds remaining. No, he doesn't.
On to the shooting phase. We'll start with Squad of Felgustus. I'm not going to play any stratagems, just going to shoot at the Immortals. So I'm going to start with the bolt gun shots. 6 shots hitting on 3s. Getting 2. And wounding on 4s, because the Immortals are only toughness 4, because they're within contagion range. Getting 2.
2+ save, I put this on the people in cover because they're behind the barricade. Yep, so no 1s. 2
plasma gun shots, not overcharged. Hitting on 3s, 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, 1 wound.
Again, 5+ because cover. Oh, made it with a 6.
Blight Launcher, 2 shots hitting on 3s, double miss.
Oh dear.
So the Blight Hall is going to put all of its weapons into the Immortals as well. The Plague Spurt, the Bile Spurt is in range, and it's a blast weapon, so it's automatically going to get 3 hits.
Well, 3 shots, right?
3 shots, yeah. Hitting on 3s, they will hit. Wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s because it's a plague weapon. Roll that 1, 3 wounds.
Safety -1, I believe, so we're back to a 3+ save. Made all of them.
Multi-melter, I'll do that next. 2 shots hitting on 3s. Double hit. Wounding on 2s. 1 wound.
6+ save thanks to cover. No, so 1 Immortal dead so far.
And the missile launcher hits. Wounds on 2. It does.
4+ because of cover. Made that. So one immortal dies, I'll roll his reanimation immediately. Oh, 6, so he comes back. So I'm going to kill this one because he's the closest to Felthius, so make his charge longer, and then reanimate him over here.
So in the charge phase, the spawn will charge the immortals.
So command points to Overwatch, they're in.
8, that's easily enough.
So the spawn come in like this.
Yeah, and then the Poxwalkers will charge them as well. Probably needing a 10, that's what Felthius needs to get. They're going to finish their charge like that, so there's 5 fighting the barricade and 5 have managed to come round. And Felthius might as well charge as well. Going to need at least a 10. Ooh, nah, I'm not going to reroll that. I'm going to pick the spawn to fight first. So I need to roll to see which random mutation the spawn have. That's number 2. That means they get 3d3 attacks instead of 2d3 each. So 6d3 attacks. 2, 4, 6, 9, 10. Hitting on 4s. 6. And wounding on 3s. Because -1 plus.
No.
2.
The 2 5+ armor slots. Name off that one. So one immortal is dead. Yeah, because it's the end of the spawn's attacks, so reanimation. Oh, he does. One's going to die and then reanimate in place because I don't think it's going to matter very much. And then the Poxwalkers get to attack. You potentially have to do these in 2 batches because against the ones that are fighting over the barricade, if I put the wounds they inflict on the models behind the barricade, I will be able to get the benefits of heavy cover and therefore +1 to my save. So it technically might go to choose the order in which his models attack, so you get to decide.
I'm going to do the fight outside, but first I'm going to spend a command point to play the Mutant Strain stratagem on them. So this means that if I roll any 6s to hit, the Poxwalkers cause a mortal wound in addition to any damage they happen to do, but if I roll any 1s to hit, the Poxwalkers take a mortal wound. So I'll do the 10, the 5 outside the barricade first. Getting a single 6 and 2 1s, good job boys. And they hit on 4s, getting 2 hits.
Because Poxwalkers now hit on 4s all the time now.
Wounding on 5s, nothing.
So far 1 mortal wound to the Immortals and 2 to the Poxwalkers.
Yeah, actually we've got a 6+ chance to shrug, so I'll just do that now. No, 2 dead Poxwalkers.
Yeah, so they do ignore wounds on 6s.
And then the 5 outside the barricade. Don't get any 6s or 1s, and get 4 hits. Wounding on 5s. 1.
I'll put this wound on a guy who is behind the barricade relative to them, so he gets 2+ armor save, which he made. The mortal wound was inflicted as a result of their attacks, so I do get to reanimate from it potentially. So does the mortal wound guy come back? No, he does not. We're going to take away this immortal here from that mortal wound. And then 2 Poxwalkers get killed by their own mortal wounds.
Going to take those 2 away.
And then the remaining immortals get to hit back, so these 5 here all have to attack the Poxwalkers because they couldn't pile in to attack anything else. And this one here, who is still in lookout so range of the Lord, depending on where I keep the Lord next turn, and the 2 over there will attack the spawn. Yeah, we'll do the attacks on the Poxwalkers first. We've got 10 attacks, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because the Lord's will is still active on the immortals. No 1s though. In fact, they all hit. Well, okay, 10 hits. Wounding on 4s because Poxwalkers are toughness 4 now, and they're strength 4. 8 wounds.
6+ to shrug. Ooh, shrug 3 of them. 3 remaining Poxwalkers.
And then we've got our two guys hitting the spawn. 4 attacks on 3s. Rerolling 1s, 1 hit so far. No, well, 1 hit, okay, that's all misses then. Wounds on a 5. No. No morale tests necessary, even though the spawn reduced leadership. So that's the end of Death Guard turn 2 on to Necron's turn 2. On to command phase, I gain a command point. The Lord's will go on the Immortals again because they're the only core unit I have in range. And at the end of the command phase, I gain 20 victory points for holding 2 or more objectives and for holding more moment than my opponent, so going up to 30 victory points. And the reason for that is I control this objective over here, even though we're tied on models within 3 inches, because the Immortals are troops' choices and our objective secured, so they trump anything else. Movement over here, the Immortals have all fallen back from combat because, although they were doing alright, I don't think we can rely on them to do that again. The spawn will get to hit them first again. The Lord has moved back into the corner of the ruin, so he's still within range of the objective site, and at the end of movement phase he will start to do the ritual action again. This Scarab Swarm has moved over here to stand next to that objective. This Scarab Swarm down in this corner don't need to block Felthius teleport anymore, so they've retreated back behind the rock formation, but still holding that objective. And at the end of my movement phase, after much deliberation, I decided to bring the Scorpic Destroyers on in this corner over here, where they are currently at least not visible to most of the Death Guard firepower. They are just over 9 inches away from Lord Felthius, and the Warrior Squad will remain off the board for the moment. The shooting phase is come and gone because I have no models with ranged weapons that haven't fallen back. So onto the charge phase, where this Scarab Swarm over here will charge the spawn. I won't even bother rolling because they only want to push them in a couple of inches, which is the minimum.
Yeah, definitely going to roll at least a 2.
There we are, charging like that. It's all my charges. I won't charge with the destroyers, so just the Scarabs get to fight the spawn. Scarab Swarms have 4 attacks each, hitting on 4s, 6s automatically wound. Well, that's a lot of 6s, not 5 6s. And 2 additional hits, which wound on 6s, because these are the special Death Guard spawn with their upgrade that makes them tougher 6. Oh, I've got a 6, so 6 wounds.
6 5+ saves. I only made 2, so 1 spawn left on full health.
Here they have 4 wounds each, so that's actually a pretty good result for the spawn. They will consolidate as well, those 2 other bases, just to get closer. And the spawn gets to fight back.
Yep. Random mutation, 2, so that's 3d3 attacks again. 3d3, 4, 7. 7 attacks hitting on 4s. 4 hits. Wounding on 2s, because they're only toughness 2.
Yep, thanks to contagion.
So it's going to be 8 damage.
So that's 2 dead bases, because they're 2 damage each.
Yeah.
The Scarabs do have reanimation protocols, so if I get 4 or more 5s, then the base will come back. No. So, destroying 2 bases, leaving 1 on the objective. At the end of my turn, I successfully complete the action again, going up to 40 victory points in total. So that brings us on to Death Guard turn 3. Protocol for this battle round is Protocol of the Hungry Void, which is either +1 strength for units that were charged or performed heroic intervention, or -1 AP on 6s to wound with melee weapons. I'll go for the +1 strength for charging units.
So for my movement, the remaining spawn is going to stay in combat. 3 Poxwalkers is just going to mill around and spread contagion. Felthius is going to start moving towards the objective in the middle of the ruin. Squad Felgustus is going to move up into the middle. The Blight Horror is going to move to that spot so it can see the Scarab Swarm off in the distance. And the Plaguecaster had to advance. I'm not going to bother Rob showing it because he only needed an inch to get on top of the gantry and take that objective.
So we're on to the Psychic phase.
So we're going to start with Smite. Try and clear out some more of these mortals. Hitting a 5, getting an 8.
Okay, can't stop it.
There's nothing within 12, so the Pestilential Fallout won't affect anything. D3 mortal wounds for 2.
Kills 2 immortals. This one. And this one.
Yeah, we'll try and cast Putrescent Vitality on Felthius. Hitting a 7, getting a 7. Putrescent Vitality on Felthius.
So +1 strength and toughness.
Yep. And the shooting phase, the Plague Marines are going to shoot at the Immortals. We got 6 bolt gun shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4, wounding on 5s.
4s, because you're...
4s, yeah,
my toughness is reduced.
Contagion. Getting 1.
I'll put this on the guy who's in cover, I suppose, so that'll be a 2+ save. Yep.
And then we've got 2 plasma gun shots. That miss. And a Blight Launcher shot. 2 Blight Launcher shots. That miss as well. The Blight Hauler is going to shoot at the Immortals as well. Crack Missile, hitting on a 3, hits. Wounds on a 2. It does.
I'll put this on a guy in cover as well, because it's a 4+. Yep, failed, so...
Dead.
Yeah.
And 2 multi-melter shots on 3s, hit. Wound on 2s, both wound.
Kill 2 more, I'm not going to put them on cover, people in cover. So we lose 1 who's in cover, and 2 more. Do they reanimate? 1 does. So I'll put them on back. Over there.
Felthius is going to try and charge the Immortals. Come on! Ugh.
It's definitely not a 7.
I'm not going to re-roll it, it's too far away.
Yeah, it's an 11 because of the casualties from the Immortals.
Yeah.
No more charges, onto the fight phase where the Scarabs get to fight the remaining spawn first. I'm going to use the self-destruction stratagem for a command point to actually blow that Scarab swarm up. I roll dice on a 1, nothing happens. From 2 to 5, the spawn takes D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it takes 3 mortal wounds. So D6, 5. So it takes D3 mortal wounds on the spawn for 2. So it goes down to 2 wounds. And Scarab Swarm is removed, which we're not entirely sure, but I guess nobody killed the spawn. Nobody killed the Scarab, so the spawn probably shouldn't get a mark on its kill tally because it didn't actually finish off the Scarabs. It leaves the spawn in control of that objective, but the Death Guard have 2 objectives already, so they don't gain any additional benefit from having 3, so I'm not too bothered about that one. And I lost 3 Immortals this turn, but even with the spawn being nearby, their modified leadership of 9 is enough to prevent any running away. So that's the end of Death Guard turn 3, on to Necron's turn 3. In my command phase I'll get a command point, the Lord's Will go on the Immortals again, because they're again the only nearby unit. I don't foresaw any victory points for objectives. I was only holding this one down here, which is only 1 and which is not 2. And then for movement, the Immortals are consolidated around the Lord, who will once again start the ritual action. The Scarabs that were down here have moved across to come and help out in the centre of the table, hopefully. The Scorpic Destroyers have come around here to try and tackle Lord Felthius. And finally, I've brought on my remaining squad of warriors down here more than 9 inches away from Felthius and from the Plaguecaster up on top of the gantry. But yeah, for strategic reserve they can come on within 6 inches of the table edge, so they're over here. On to the shooting phase, we'll start with the newly arrived warriors, who will put their Gauss Reapers. 6 of them can see the Malignant Plaguecaster on top of the gantry. So up there. 2 of them can't see him, they can see Felthius, and the one right on the far end is not in range of anything and he can't see the Plaguecaster, so he won't shoot. And I will spend my command point for Solar Pulse to let them ignore the cover that the gantry provides to the Plaguecaster. I've got 12 shots at the Plaguecaster, hitting on 3s. So that's 9 hits. And winning on 4s, that's 5. Oh, that's a really good roll. That's 8 wounds at AP -2.
You need to make use of these. New.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of damage.
Dead.
And there's a dead Plaguecaster. And we've got 4 shots at Felthius. These are at -1 to hit because I didn't use Solar Pulse on him.
Felthius' Gift of Speed.
Oh yeah, and the cover as well, actually. I've forgotten he was also -1 to hit. 1 hit, therefore. Wounds on a 5 because he's toughness 6 at the moment. Psychic power. Oh, yeah, that's a wound out at -2.
4+ invulnerable save. Can I get it in the box? Made it.
And the Immortals are going to try and finish off the damaged spawn. 6 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because of the Lord's will. Reroll that 1. Gives us 6 hits. Wounding on 5s because they are also toughness 6 because of their Blessing of Nurgle. Oh wow, 1 wound.
Down to 1 wound.
Yep, no armour for that. So that just brings us to the charge phase where these destroyers will charge at Lord Felthius. So we actually just remembered that their battle scar means they have to charge if they're in range, so obviously it doesn't matter now. They would have technically had to do it last turn. It's probably a bit late to go back and fix that now, so we'll just assume they failed their charge. It would have been a 9-inch charge anyway. So, but now they're charging and they get +1 to the roll because of their battle trait as well. So rolling, adding 1, 10 inches, yeah, that'll do. And they will come in like that. The Scarabs will charge those 3 remaining Poxwalkers. Needing probably about 5 or 6, 9 is a lot. And then finish their charge like that. But we will definitely fight with the Destroyers first. We'll start with the Hyperphase Reap Blade, which is the big one, which we've got 3 attacks hitting on 4s because Felthius has his Chaos Boon, gives him -1 to hit all the time. That does help, so only 1 hit. Wounds on a 3 because we're strength 8 at the moment, thanks to my protocol, and re-rolling fails because that's their battle scar that they got. So that's a wound at AP -4.
4+ vulnerable save. Made it.
And we've got 8 attacks from the Hyperphase Threshers, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. That was a 1 that I just knocked over, which doesn't re-roll to hit. 5 hits. We are winning on 4s because we're strength 6, but he's toughness 6 because of Fusion Vitality, and re-rolling fails. No. Reroll the box. Right, so 5 wounds overall at AP -3.
5 4+ saves. Failed 3.
So 3 wounds go through.
Yeah, but he's got a 5+ revoltingly resilient.
Yep, which is his Warlord trait.
It doesn't shrug any, so he's down to 3 wounds.
Yep, they're 2 damage each normally, but disgustingly resilient reduces damage by 1. So I have to admit a mistake here. Unfortunately, the Destroyers were not within 6 inches of a character when they finished this charge, so they wouldn't have actually gained the benefit of the command protocol that was active. So they should not have had +1 strength, they should have been winning on 5s with these weapons and not 4s, which means there wouldn't have been as many wounds, and Felthius wouldn't have taken as much damage. So apologies if you spotted this, I just got a bit carried away with the excitement, but at least it didn't actually kill him, so it's not too much harm done. And we'll do the Scarabs on the Poxwalkers. 12 attacks hitting on 4s. 3 6s are automatic wounds, and then we've got 4 other hits that wound on 4s because my +1 strength from my protocol affects the Scarabs as well. Only adding 1 more, so they don't have an armor save, but they do get 2 more wounds on 6s.
New.
Destroy Poxwalkers. And the spawn will consolidate like this just to get slightly more in the way of the Chaos Spawn next turn. And Lord Felthius gets to strike back.
I'm going to use the Cleave mode from his scythe. 5 attacks hitting on 3s. They all hit. So he is the plague carrier for my warband, so the destroyers become infected and immediately take D3 mortal wounds. So they take D3 mortal wounds for 2.
So one of the destroyers goes down to 1.
We got 5 hits, and he's strength 8 at the moment, +3 from the scythe, +1 from Features and Vitality, and they are down to toughness 4 because of contagions, so wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s because it's a plague weapon. Reroll that 1. 5 wounds. AP -3.
So we're looking for 6s to save. 1 6, so 4 wounds. So the first one will kill 1 destroyer, second 2 will kill 1, and then the last attack will leave 1 on 1 wound because they're 2 damage each. That destroyer is on 1 wound, and I'm keeping that one there because it'll keep Felthius engaged for the next turn. But they might reanimate. 6 dice, needing 5 pluses. Oh, well, that's good. That's 4. So one of them does actually stand back up. And it will be the one with the big Hyperphage Reap Blade. But that's it for my turn. On to Death Guard, turn 4. And I did complete the rituals, so going up to 50 victory points in total. Battle round 4, Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant, which is, because I'm Celtec, I get both effects, so I can fall back and shoot at -1 to hit, and I also increase the range of all my aura abilities and the Lord's Will by 3 inches.
So at the start of my command phase I gain a command point, and then the contamination affects the destroyers, and they take a mortal wound.
So that kills this injured one here.
Yeah, and he can't come back.
No, because it's not a reanimate, it's not an attack. And yeah, we'll just use the black dice to mark which units are contaminated.
I'm also going to spend a command point to use Diseased Effluence on Felthius, so he'll take a mortal wound, but he gets a chance to not lose it. So I'll do that first. On a 5+, no. So he's down to 2, but on a 2+, the Destroyer takes 2d3 mortal wounds. Phew. 2d3 for 3.
That's enough to destroy it. So that's significant because it means that Felthius is no longer engaged and he can do stuff.
And then I gain 20 victory points for holding 2 objectives.
Yeah, so
which is more than the Necrons.
Yeah.
Governess Trarch is going to move around, so she can technically fight the Lord through that wall. Felthius is going to move up, try and get to the middle, and the Plague Marine squad is just going to move up to the barricade because they're too slow to get over it. So on to the shooting phase. I'm going to start with the Plague Marines. They're going to shoot the Immortals. 6 bolt gunshots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because Felthius is nearby, because of his Lord of the Death Guard ability. Good job Felthius is here to show people how it's done. 5 hits. Wounding on 4s because -1 toughness. 2 wounds.
No AP, we're in cover. 2+. Oh, that kills one, that's a 1.
Plasma gun, not going to overcharge. 2 shots, hitting on 3s, 2 hits. Wounding on 3s. 2 wounds.
5s. Making 1 fail and 1, there's 1 immortal left.
1 left. Blight Launcher, try and hit this time. On 3s, gets a hit. Wounds on a 3. It wounds.
4+. Oh, I made it. So there's 1 immortal left. The other 2 potentially reanimate. 1 does. So 2 immortals die and 1 reanimates on the other side of the wall where it's kind of blocking the Chaos Spawn getting to my Lord.
The Blight Hauler is going to fire the multi-melter and a crack missile at the Lord.
Yes, who no longer benefits from Lookout Sir because there are only 2 immortals left.
2 off first, 2 shots hitting on 3s, getting a single hit.
Yep, his toughness is reduced.
Wounds on a 2, he does.
4+ invulnerable save. Made it.
Crack missile, misses.
Yeah, he doesn't have it doesn't normally have an invulnerable save, but he's within 3 inches. Or he's within the ritual site, so he gets 4+ invulnerable save. That's one of the scenario special rules.
Felthius is going to throw his Orb of Desiccation at the Scarabs.
Yep, that thing he's holding does something now.
Yeah, grenade 3d3. 6 shots, sorry. Hitting on 2s. Ooh, they all hit. Strength 4 and they're only toughness 2, so it's wounding on 2s, you're rolling 1s.
Yeah, because of contagions.
All those 1s. Oh, so that's 10 damage.
Yes, it's AP -1 and they have they have a 6+ save. So that leaves 1 Scarab base left on 2 wounds because it's 2 damage each. But the destroyed base is reanimate. Not quite.
Felthius is going to charge both the Immortals and the Lord. Whoop. 8's probably enough to get him within range of the Lord. The Chaos Spawn is going to charge both of them as well. 3.
That's where the spawn ends up. And it's within an inch of the Lord through that wall.
And then the Plague Marines are going to try and charge those Scarabs. Oh, like a 12.
That'll do. So you finish their charge like that, engaging the Scarabs and also getting near the objectives. On to the fight phase.
So Felthius is going to attack the Necron Lord with the Scythe mode of his Scythe, because he gets so many attacks, and there's only 4 wounds, and it's going to be a 4+ save either way, so we're going to go for a weight of numbers here.
Yeah, so this is because of his relic, the Ferryman's Scythe, which gives him 3 attacks per attack on his profile.
So he's got 15 attacks hitting on 2s, 14 hits, so the Lord will immediately take D3 mortal wounds as he becomes contaminated. Only 1, then 14 hits, wounding on 3s, rerolling 1. 13 wounds.
Only 1 damage each, but I got to roll pretty well here. Yeah, there's at least 3 fails in there.
4, 5, 6, yeah.
So that takes the Death Guard up to 50 victory points because you get 30 for killing the Warlord in this scenario.
The Ludmilla next. Random mutation. 2 again. 3d3 attacks. 4. Hitting on 4s. 3 hits. Wounding on 3s. 3 wounds. AP -2.
5+ saves for the Immortals. Made 1, but that's too 2 dead, so the 2 immortals are destroyed.
And then she actually finishes my second objective, turn your hope to rot. And then the Plague Marines. I think they're all within half an inch of half an inch. So we have 3 attacks from the Power Fist, because Plague Marines get an extra attack. Hitting on 4s. 1 hit. Wounds on a 2. He does.
No save. 2 damage. Scarabs are destroyed. And that'll be it for Death Guard turn 4. At which point I'm going to just concede the game, because the Death Guard it's equal on victory points, but I can only ever hold this one objective, and I need at least 2 objectives to get any victory points, so I can never gain any more victory points, and the Death Guard will automatically get at least 10 more. Yeah, so even if I kill the Blight Hauler and deny the Death Guard an objective, they still hold 1 to my 0, because I can't hold an objective and shoot the Blight Hauler. It's just not going to happen, so we will definitely be calling that a Death Guard victory. On to the post-battle sequence. First we have to take out-of-action tests. We'll start with the Death Guard. The Poxwalkers are immune, because they're Poxwalkers, they don't...
You don't gain experience or don't have to take out-of-action tests, can't gain battle traits or anything like that. Squad Repugnus, they're okay. And Pandemic the Flymaster, he's okay.
Then we've got the entire Necron army except Phalanx Bet here with the Gauss Reapers. Technically the Death Guard would have had an extra turn to kill them off, but we kind of rolled for it off camera and they didn't do enough damage to destroy the unit, rather than show that on camera because it was not worth doing, so they lived. We'll start with Lord Amanras. He's fine. Apophis the Butcher, the Scorpic Lord, he's fine. The Immortals, they're fine. Scorpic Destroyers, they're fine. Scarab Swarm 1, which is the one that killed the Poxwalkers, fine. And Scarab Swarm 2, also fine, so no 1s for anybody. Now we gain experience, so we'll do the Death Guard first, so everyone gets 1 for turning up.
Yeah, Felthius achieved the Reaper agenda for getting 2 kills, that's the Destroyers and the Necron Lord. So he's up to experience 9 now, since we agreed he started at rank 1. Pandemic the Flymaster is the one I'm going to mark for greatness, because he did kill the Destroyer Lord basically on his own, so he gets an extra 3. And the Spawn achieved my other agenda, which is turn their hope to rot, which is to destroy the enemy unit with the highest power level. So Ludmilla and her friend gain 3 extra experience, and I gain a virulence point.
Which is the thing that lets the Death Guard manipulate their special plague. But the Poxwalkers don't get anything, as we said before. And on the Necron side, everyone gets 1 for turning up, obviously. No deaths. For agendas, for Reaper, 3 units killed stuff. There was the Scorpic Destroyer Lord, Phalanx Bet, the Warriors killed something, as did Scarab Swarm 1. It's because they're all tied, I get to choose. We'll give the Reaper to the Destroyer Lord. I could give it to the Warriors. Either of these units would gain enough experience to level up, but I think we'd get more mileage out of putting it on the Destroyer Lord, so he'll gain a battle trait, which I'll pick for his next game. Oh, the Scarab Swarm 1 actually went off enough experience to actually take them over up to 6, so they gain a level and a battle trait anyway. And I failed my Survivor agenda for the Necron Lord to stay alive, so he doesn't get any bonus experience for that. And I shall mark the Immortals, the first of 10,000, for greatness, because they actually did pretty well in this game. They refused to go down until right at the last, and they also killed a few Plague Marines. And held up 2 units in combat without basically taking any damage, so I think they did pretty well. We'll decide our new traits and things next time. The Death Guard also gain a free battle trait as the victors of this game, so 1 unit that took part gets a free battle trait. But that's everything for the post-battle sequence, so we'll give you our recap now. Right, well, that was Game 5 in the Mystery of Artana 3 campaign. How do you think that went?
Well, it certainly didn't feel like a win. Felt like I was on the back foot for the entire game.
Yeah, I suppose I can rack up early victory points in that scenario just by doing the action, and also the fact that I can, because of the placing of objectives, I can put 2 in my deployment zone easily.
Yeah, I placed that one on top of the gantry basically just to be a bit more interesting. That's probably a bad idea, because then I had to spend ages getting up to it.
Yes, perhaps in hindsight, if you put that on the floor.
I don't think I even gained... Yeah, it wasn't until turn 4, I think, until I gained any victory points.
I felt like there was a very complicated, a very complex game. An awful lot of things happened, and an awful lot of things, if they'd been done differently, by me, I think your game plan was pretty solid, to be honest. But I think there's so many things I could have done differently, and I have honestly no idea if they would have done better. The one thing you did point out after the game that might have been a good idea is towards the end, when I shot at the Chaos Spawn with the Immortals, I probably should have moved closer to them and charged them and battered it to death in melee, or at the very least been an objective secure unit holding that objective, and then maybe used the Scarabs to either hold the other objective or protect the Lord instead of the Immortals.
That would have... I mean, we've both been on at least 1 objective, so we might have, even though I'd killed the Lord, I'd still have to play the 5th turn, where if everything had gone the same, I wouldn't have had a spawn, I suppose. The Plague Marines might have charged or shot the Immortals.
Yeah, and I might have had some Scarabs, because the Scarabs I think are probably actually harder to get rid of with ranged weaponry than Immortals, just because they have so many wounds each. So it may or may not have made a difference. But as I say, that's another one. It's just one of those things that's very difficult to figure it out.
There are a couple of important things, like Felthius being able to kill off the Destroyers, even though I had to use a stratagem to do it.
Yeah, the Destroyer's charge, even though it took 3 wounds off, I'm not sure if it was worth it. One thing I really struggled with, which you didn't really see off camera because you didn't see how long I spent agonising over it, was placement of my reinforcements. Because in turn 2, all the Death Guard units were positioned so that they just about couldn't come on the Death Guard end of the board. There just wasn't quite enough space, and so I had to decide where they were going to go, and are they out of sight, and all this kind of thing, and what are they going to do. Maybe I should have brought units in on the other side where the spawn were, taking out the spawn and basically counter-attacked from over there. That might have been a better move, rather than trying to attack Felthius. Because in the end I didn't slow him down, because he still managed to kill them off. Yet another thing, I don't know whether it's the right thing to do. I'd also like to point out my rolls were really good. I was actually really lucky. I rolled, when I was hitting on 4s and wounding on 4s and things, I rolled a majority of them basically every time. And the Immortals just refused to die. And also I got 6 of them back at the beginning as well with the Resurrection Orb, which was definitely worth bringing. But if I hadn't rolled so well for that, then there wouldn't have been as many Immortals, and the game would have gone differently as well.
I think the Plague Marines, the Blight Launcher got something like 50% accuracy on the second squad.
Yeah, you got quite a few misses with your Plague Marines as well, and Blight Hauler as well. Missed a fair few times.
Yeah, I think my Poxwalkers got 6 hits out of 20 attacks or something. Did more damage to themselves than the enemy.
So you didn't roll quite so well most of the time, and I rolled very well, and I still felt like it was an uphill battle for me.
Yeah, I suppose other things like you roll randomly for the plague that your Death Guard get in Crusade, and I happen to get the one that basically benefits Felthius the most, being able to deliver it by hitting things in melee, and he gets 1,000,000 attacks.
Yeah, and then infected units continue to take mortal wounds until they perform an action to get rid of it, so it's a really good contagion.
And then you basically have to waste a ton of time getting rid of it, basically wasting the entire movement phase.
But there are other options that you could roll up that are not nearly so you don't have nearly as much of an immediate impact on the game like doing mortal wounds does. Because, just if you're not familiar, you roll on 3 tables. The first one is how units get infected, and there are various options. The second one is what happens when they get infected, and the last one is how you get rid of it. There are things that make the units -1 to hit and various other bits and pieces. But
or things that can't shoot beyond half range and stuff like that.
And actually, one thing that I do feel like is the case with the new Death Guard is if you get close to them, really bad things happen. Like the -1 toughness is devastating. You've got so many wounds on Immortals and things that you might not have gone otherwise just by dropping them to toughness 4.
Yeah, and even just having Poxwalkers milling about, spreading contagion.
And also, they do a lot of mortal wounds. Yeah, we had the diseased effluent stratagem, which
I think did 3 to the Destroyer Lord and then 3 to the other Destroyers. Even if my units took damage. But
that did it in for 2 of my units, basically. Another thing I'm still not very confident with is the command protocols. There's a lot to consider with those. First of all, you have to choose them before you know who goes first, so that might completely affect your battle plan depending on whether you go first or second. The one I chose in the first round, the +1 movement was actually quite useful, but I might have been better off with the one that lets you re-roll a reanimation protocol roll. Hopefully keep 1 or 2 more Immortals alive, especially if I hadn't rolled quite so well, it might have come into effect. I did manage to get a charge off when my Destroyers... I've just realised... I've just noticed I'm going to have to put a note in the video. My Destroyers didn't benefit from that protocol, so they probably shouldn't have even done as much damage as they could, because they weren't within 6 inches of a character. So the Destroyers would have had lower strength, so they probably wouldn't have damaged Felthius enough. It didn't matter, because he never died anyway. I was basing my battle plan on having characters where I needed them to be. My sort of hope was to bring on the Destroyers on that side, and then the Lord and the Destroyers together might have been able to do a fair bit of damage. So I'm not sure if sacrificing the Destroyer Lord in order to kill off the Plague Marines was worth it. I don't know whether that was a good idea or not. Maybe I should have kept him back. But on the other hand, it meant you didn't have a couple of plasma guns to be shooting at me, so that's never a bad thing. But on the other hand, it was the fact that the Destroyer Lord made his charge that let you put Felthius down there, which then... I guess talking about the new Death Guard a bit...
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they've changed in quite a lot of ways. They still feel like the same army, they still play in basically the same way. I think they've just got better at doing it. A couple of them, maybe really extreme, powerful things have been toned down, although felt like they were still pretty powerful to me in that game.
There's a lot less rolling of dice, because you have to roll for Disgusting Resilient all the time, and D3 damage on your Blight Launchers.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing. And -1 damage didn't really come into effect that much in this game. I mean, it did. It kept Felthius alive, but most of my attacks that I put on Plague Marines were either 1 or 3 damage, so it didn't matter. But Demon Engine sitting on 3s is quite a big thing. It makes that Blight Hauler quite a bit more effective.
It didn't move very much, but obviously it has the updated multi-melter.
Yeah, and there's also a stratagem you can use on it that means enemies shooting at it get -1 shot. It doesn't have the aura of cover anymore, but Yeah, there's a lot of changes. Yeah, we couldn't even hope to go over even half of them really in that game. There's so many things.
I'm sure there's plenty of codex reviews at this point.
Yeah, you can easily find a good review if you want to find out all the different all the changes. But from the point of view of the story, Lord Felthius has turned up. We still don't know what he's looking for or why he's been drilling. Whether he knew there were Necrons here or not, nobody knows either.
Or did he even care? Yeah, so Felthius has got himself a new lackey since Gangrus got killed on Corvon 2. Lord of Virulence, who's Virosius. He has the Rotten Constitution Warlord trait so far, that's all he has. So we'll probably see him in the next game. Also, we haven't seen, there's a Plague Burst Crawler with the Entropy Cannons. There's another unit of Poxwalkers in there. The Tainted Cohort, or a unit of Blightlord Terminators. A proper unit this time, not an understrength one. Would have been convenient to bring in this game. I probably would have done if I actually had the models for them, but so hopefully see them soon. And I did have a Chaos Rhino, but I just penciled it out and put in a Tallyman with the Tollkeeper Relic, because that combos really well with the Ferryman Stratagem. But I think the way we'll do the Death Guard is that if they're playing against the Necrons, I'll play the Death Guard, and if they're playing against the Space Marines, we'll play the Death Guard.
Yes, so at least I can't complain that the new book is really overpowered or anything, because I get to use it half the time, so right. I won't complain too much. Anyway, I think that's all for this video, so if you enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe. We hope to be able to resume normal service in terms of content now that we're being disrupted once again by lockdowns. Let us know what you thought of this game, particularly if you have some tactics that would be useful for, well, particularly the Necrons, because I think I'm still struggling to figure out how to use them properly.
And the Death Guard would be handy.
Yeah, and the Death Guard if you have any tips on using the new codex. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye for now.